What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here to give you my record prediction for the Kansas City Chiefs this 2021 NFL regular season. There's recently been some news about Patrick Mahomes suggesting that the team could go undefeated, or at least that's what the goal is for 2021. So in this video, I'll tell you if I think they're going to go undefeated, as well as give you my record prediction for the team this season. Going through each individual game, letting you know if I think they'll win, they'll lose, breaking down the matchups, the best matchups, the worst matchups. But before I give you that record prediction for the Chiefs this season, make sure that you do spike that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL record predictions just like this, and hop in that comment section and let me know, how will the Chiefs do this year? Are they going to go back to the Super Bowl for the third year in a row? Will they win it this year? Are they just going to be a good team and not a great team this year and make the playoffs? I think we all assume that. Let me know in the comments how the Chiefs will do in 2021. Let's break down that schedule. The Chiefs kick off the 2021 NFL season with perhaps their toughest game all year. That is the Cleveland Browns coming to Kansas City in week 1. I'm going to say this, Chiefs fans. I think you caught a break for two reasons here. The Browns have a very new defense. Like, a lot of new players on this defense. I think by the time we get to playoff time, their defense will be a lot better because the continuity, the chemistry, and just the pieces fitting together, it will work. But in week 1, that doesn't always work out. It doesn't always click right away. Often it doesn't. And actually, defenses with a lot of pieces trying to work at the same time early in a season often struggles early in the season. That's just the way it works. So for the Chiefs to get the Browns in week 1 is kind of fortunate. It's also at home. So that's also fortunate because I think these two teams could be two of the teams that are fighting for the number 1 seed in the AFC. Ultimately, I think the Chiefs are probably the best week 1 team in the NFL. And a lot of that has to do with Andy Reid and his creativity season to season to come up with new game plans, new plays, and draw new things up that's creative, off the wall, and different, and takes his opponent by surprise. I have the Chiefs winning week 1 in a pretty competitive, but then again, pretty calm, easy for the Chiefs. Like, I expect it to be close, but then I see the Chiefs kind of pulling away near the end of the game. Then you have in week 2 another big challenge. You play the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. This is the thing with the Chiefs, all right? So Mahomes said they want to go undefeated, and I don't know what any other answer he could give, to be honest. Like, you have to give that answer. But the Ravens, the Bills, the Chargers in the first 5 weeks of the season, and the Browns. You get no breaks here. You play probably 4 AFC playoff teams in the first 5 weeks of the season. At least that's how I look at it. I like the Chargers to improve this year. I like the Ravens, I like the Bills, and I like the Browns. So you're going to find out, Chiefs fans, early how you stack up versus some of the best teams in the AFC. And that could be good. And if you're undefeated through that part, hey, maybe you can go undefeated. We'll find out. All right, so week number 2, they play the Ravens. They've dominated the Ravens for the most part the last couple of years. And that makes me believe they'll win this game again. I will say that there is something new about this rivalry a little bit, if you want to call it a rivalry, is Lamar actually has some receivers to throw to. And this could be a Sammy Watkins revenge game. Given it's week 2, I hope he's healthy for this game. So I wouldn't rule out a Ravens upset here. It should be a fun game. I believe it's on Sunday night. But I am going to go with the Chiefs because they've proven to me that they pretty much own this matchup. Week 3, they play the Chargers. They also play the Chargers in week 15. We'll get to that one a little bit later. I have the Chiefs winning at least the first matchup between the two teams. So there's some reason for this. I think the Chargers are not going to be ready for these big time opponents early. Because I think with the whole new coaching staff and a whole new offensive line and a little bit of a whole new defense in general, switching schemes, it's going to take the Chargers a little bit of time to be at the caliber of a Chiefs to compete with them. The Chargers have played the Chiefs relatively well, really competitive over the last couple of years, even with Anthony Lynn, who I think is a subpar head coach. And they almost nearly beat them, I believe, the second week of the season. That was an exciting game. The Chiefs tend to play a lot of close games where they end up winning. So that's definitely going to happen. That could happen in this Chargers game, but you should see about 3 or 4 of those throughout the course of the season. That's just the way the Chiefs sort of play. I think the hope here for Kansas City is that the new offensive line getting a test versus Myles Garrett in week 1, getting a test versus Joey Bosa in week 3. So look out for that. That's definitely a key development as the season goes on. Week 4, the Chiefs at the Eagles. I fully expect the Chiefs to win this game. This is by far their easiest opponent in the first 5 weeks. The Eagles are sort of in rebuild mode, and Andy Reid, whenever he goes to Philadelphia, I feel like there's a little bit of a chip on the shoulder to win that game of how things ended in Philadelphia. So week 5, they play the Bills. This is a game where you could lose, obviously. You played the Bills, played them twice last year, won both games, won the AFC Championship, made it to the Super Bowl. I expect nothing to change. Again, just like the Ravens rivalry, the Chiefs have mostly owned their AFC competition. You know, outside of Tom Brady, they've pretty much owned their AFC competition. So they beat the Bills, and I just see it being, I don't know if the Bills have really improved enough for me to say they're better than the Chiefs. Like, maybe they improved defensively this year to allow them to defend the Chiefs better. Maybe their offense, just the experience of playing the Chiefs helps them stay more competitive. And I would believe that will be the case. So I wouldn't expect a blowout here. But again, this game's again in Kansas City, which is also a huge advantage, as you know. Week 6, the Washington football team. Now this one could be like a upset alert type game because you never know with Fitz. Fitz magic can pull off the magic. And they have a very good defense. They have the closest defense to what you saw in the Super Bowl with Tampa Bay. So that's where you're going to know how good your offensive line is. Week 6. That's the test, okay? Because you don't play Tampa this year. You do play some other good pass rushing teams down the road. But Washington's going to be tough. And I expect that game to be really close. But I would lean towards the Chiefs winning that game. Week 7, they play the Titans in Tennessee. Another pretty tough game. That's another playoff team from a year ago and maybe a playoff team from this year. If they have Julio Jones, that changes things a lot because I know they're one of the prime candidates for him. But I'd expect the Chiefs to win this game, and I think the reason for it is I just don't think the Titans' defense particularly matches up well with the Chiefs' offense. Not that many defenses do, but it just feels like the Titans' defense is not built to stop the Chiefs, and they've had very difficult times really containing them. I think back to that AFC Championship a couple years ago, and I don't really see that changing, although I wouldn't be surprised if the Titans move the ball effectively on the Chiefs, especially that it's in Tennessee. That does help them quite a bit. So that is a prime upset candidate for sure. Could be a shootout type game. Week 8, they play the Giants. This is a Monday Night Football game in Kansas City. Okay, in Arrowhead, it's going to be loud. You're playing a marquee team like the Giants, even though they're not very good, you know, for the last couple of seasons at least. I think they'll be better this year. I look at the Giants and I say this is a team that could really compete with the Chiefs because they have a very good secondary, a defense that is a lot like the Patriots defense, built like that, and then you have a quarterback who's a wild card who could definitely make big time throws, big time scrambles, big time plays in general. You have a running back who can break open any run and really grind the football on the ground, and you have a lot of receivers that you have to defend. So I think the Giants could certainly pull off an upset here. This is going to be one of those like game of the year type games, I think, where the Chiefs end up winning it on the last drive or something of that nature, but it will be very exciting, and I'm glad that it's on Monday night. The first loss of the season for the Chiefs, I think, will come to the Packers in Week 9. I think the Packers match up well with the Chiefs. By the way, this is about the same time I have the Bucs losing. So I have the Chiefs and the Bucs being the remaining teams undefeated around week 8, week 9 area. Nobody gets past that. At least that's not what I predicted. The Packers are obviously an excellent offense with an excellent quarterback. It's going to be Rodgers versus Mahomes. And I think the advantage here, I think the reason the Packers match up well with the Chiefs is because their defense. I think they have enough of a pass rush, right? They have an excellent number 1 corner in Alexander. They have a good pair of safeties. And they have a good schemer on offense. So I really think the Packers could win a shootout type game versus the Chiefs in their building, because I don't think they'll be fazed by that. But it should be a very exciting game. And the Chiefs will have to lose eventually. Week number 10, this is another team that has kind of given you a tough time. That's the Raiders. The Raiders beat you last year and nearly beat you again. And I could see them doing that again this year. I feel like both games are going to be really close, but the Raiders won't be able to win one, because I don't really know how the Raiders won last year, to be honest. They just kind of outscored you. One of the games was a little wacky last year. The one that you lost was a little wacky. I think both games will be similar to the one we saw on Sunday night, where it's kind of score for score, back and forth. And I think the Chiefs will probably take both of them. But I wouldn't be shocked if the Raiders did beat the Chiefs at all. The week 11, the Cowboys. The Cowboys, another team, guys, that offense is really dangerous. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys beat the Chiefs. But the thing that has me holding back from that is that the Cowboys defense, I'm not really sure what it is. I will say this. The Chiefs have been slowed by those Seattle scheme defenses. The Cowboys will be running that system. So if the Cowboys defense can get a little bit of a pass rush, that will open things up to a potential upset. But as for now, I have the Chiefs winning that game. I have, after the bye week, the Chiefs losing. I think they're going to lose to the Broncos once this year. I think the reason for that is, so I'm not sure if it's going to be Locke or Bridgewater. Regardless, the reason I have the Broncos beating the Chiefs this year is I think their defense now, with that secondary, with the corners they've added, really built to contain the Chiefs' offense. And I think they can have enough success with their receivers, their backs, and their offense to move the football and grind a victory out. So I think the Broncos are going to win one of these games this year. Now, they could win both if the Chiefs just decide to sit players in week 18. I'm not sure that's going to be the case, though. So we'll say that they lose the first game just because. And then week 15, they play the Chargers in LA on Thursday night. This game reminds me a lot of that Chargers-Chiefs game a few years ago, where the Chargers beat the Chiefs in a very exciting, I think it was Thursday night game, where Phillip Rivers threw it to Mike Williams on the last play, and they ended up winning. So I think the Chargers are going to upset the Chiefs also this year. So two losses within the division at least. I think the Chiefs will rather lose to the Broncos once or the Raiders once, and I think they'll lose to the Chargers once. Okay? So that's how I see two of their losses coming within the division. I think they're going to beat the Steelers in week 16. I don't think the Steelers are going to be very good. I also look at the Steelers as not being a very good matchup in terms of the Steelers don't have a great secondary. They're not a particularly fast defense. Yes, they have good pass rushers, but if you can block them, that's really susceptible. They don't really have anyone to cover Kelsey or Hill, and their offense is average at best. So, especially in Arrowhead, I like the Chiefs. The Chiefs should be able to beat the Bengals, although that might be more exciting than we think because the Bengals have a pretty good offense. And the final week of the season, it will really depend on some of the other teams in the league and what they're doing and how they're doing. Like, how are the Browns looking in week 18, right? How are the Bills looking in week 18? Like, the certain teams that I think will be in contention for the first seed. And because I think the Chiefs are going to get the first round bye, there's 18 weeks in the season. They could effectively have 3 byes if they like almost like a bye and then a double bye if they like here, because they could rest players in week 18 if they wanted to. But because I gave them a loss to the Broncos earlier in the year, I'm going to say they win this game. Now, that obviously could change if Andy Reid decides to sit Mahomes and sit a bunch of the other players. And that will be the determining factor of whether they go 14-3 or 13-4. Honestly, I don't think this team is good enough to go undefeated. I just don't. I think the best they could do is probably 2 losses. I think the worst they could do is 4 losses. So I see them somewhere between a 2 to 4 loss team where they're 14 wins to 13 win territory. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Obviously, the Chiefs are going to be good. The question is how good, and especially how good come playoff time. It's Mitch. Thanks for watching. Gronk spiked that like button. Check out the rest of the playlist, including the rest of the AFC West and the rest of the AFC if you're interested to see where I have the rest of the AFC contenders. It's Mitch. Thanks for watching. Peace.